We are together today to celebrate the special accomplishment of your loved ones. We all know how smart and hardworking they are, and after the video presentation we ran before the ceremony, you now know how many acres of pizza they ate, the miles of sandwiches they consumed, and how many of them used the campus bus system. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the lighter side of UT Dallas, and I've not heard about that event on the mall, Brad. Because graduates, I'm going to ask you now for just a few minutes, and I promise it'll be a few, to focus on a serious subject. The critical role that you, today's graduates, and our institution, UT Dallas, have to play in nation building. And with respect to nation building, I'm not talking about going abroad and reforming some other country. I'm talking about making a commitment to focus on building, or perhaps more accurately, rebuilding our own nation. I'm going to make what may sound like a bold claim. I submit that the future of the great American research university, including UT Dallas, may be the single most important factor in determining the future of America. A few weeks ago, Tom Friedman wrote in the New York Times that a recent poll of America's likely voters said that in that poll, 47% who were polled said that the nation's best days are in the past, not in the future. Friedman wrote, quote, "The long-term concern is that people intuitively understand that what we need most now is nation building in America. They understand it just by looking around at our crumbling infrastructure, our sputtering job creation engines, and the latest international test results that show our peers out-educating us, which means they will eventually out-compete us. We are facing a really serious moment. We have got to get this moment right. We don't get a do-over. If we fail to come together and invest, spend and cut really wisely, we're headed for a fall," end of quote. Let's think about nation building for a moment. My parents are members of what some have called the greatest generation. Neither of them finished college. My dad dropped out of college to join the Army Air Corps and fight in World War II at the outbreak of the war. And a few years later, my mom met my dad. She dropped out of college to get married and to raise a family. And for those of you in the audience who are the first in your family to graduate from college, congratulations. That was me once, too. My dad, well, congratulations to you. You're the first one. I can't say it earned me anything special from my parents, but hey. My dad never spoke of the past or of the war, nor did he spend time counseling me on the future. But one thing was remarkably clear, though. My parents and millions of others would do practically anything to ensure a better life for their children than the life that they had had. My dad was 13 years old when the Great Depression engulfed this nation in 1929. Perhaps it was the human suffering of that period, as well as the sacrifice and carnage of World War II, that imbued him and millions of other Americans with the raw determination to leave the world a better place for their children. And they did. And just how did they do that? Well, prior to World War II, America was a strong nation, but it was not the globally preeminent power that it would become. Our military weaknesses were exposed by the Japanese. The top scientists of the world were not predominantly in the U.S. prior to World War II. They were primarily in Europe, and particularly in Germany. Two things profoundly changed America preceding and following World War II. One was the mass exodus of top scientific talent from Europe to the United States as the Nazi influence drove so many top minds out of Germany and Europe. The U.S. welcomed these brilliant immigrants and gave them important responsibilities in building America's technological prowess and capabilities. America's receptiveness to talent, regardless of its origin, made this country the best place in the world for the very brightest people to go for decades to come. The second thing that profoundly changed America was the incredible investment in and evolution of our great research university. Following World War II, the National Science Foundation was born, and great research machinery was put in motion at the National Institutes of Health and the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. In the 1950s and 1960s, Sputnik and the fear of Soviet technological dominance motivated unwavering support for investment in our research universities. Good research universities, like the University of California at Berkeley, Stanford, Michigan, Illinois, and MIT, literally became truly great research universities like none that the world had ever seen before. And by the end of the 20th century, quite remarkably, America was home not to just a few of the world's top research universities, but we were home to nearly all of them. For decades, the most brilliant scientists, engineers, medical researchers, business leaders, and innovators flocked to these institutions. They were drawn from within our country as well as throughout the world. And when that happened, great new discoveries were made, from the vaccine that eradicated polio, to the internet, to the